Super Mario Eclipse is the ultimate love letter to Super Mario Sunshine. Over 4 years of hard work from the many members of the Eclipse team has brought us new levels, new mechanics, new playable characters, 240 shines to collect, and a whole lot more. And as a nice added bonus, thanks to RetroAchievements set developer TimeNo, there was an achievement set released alongside the hack and has been consistently updated with each new patch. So today we're going to be collecting every single shine and obtaining every single achievement in order to experience everything that this game has to offer. But a quick disclaimer before we begin, because this hack is still receiving updates, it's possible that certain aspects of the game or the achievement set that I discuss may be different by the time you're playing it. I will point out a few differences between the time period when I played the hack and the current revision, but I probably won't catch everything. But with all that established, let's begin. You start off in a tutorial area that you can always skip and return to later if you want, but I went ahead and did it now to learn the new mechanics and get the 2 achievements tied to this area. You have some wonderfully calming music down here, and 3 main training areas that you can tackle in whatever order you wish. And coincidentally, I ended up going from hardest to easiest. For this section, the primary new mechanic is the rocket dive, which involves you diving right before you blast off to increase your distance traveled. It took me a few times to get the timing down, but thankfully there's a checkpoint system in the tutorial area, so I didn't have to redo the entire level every time I messed up. There's a 1-up right before the final 2 dives, and then after that, we're on to this next section, which immediately screams Majora's Mask intro sequence. You learn that Mario can long jump again, which definitely came in handy throughout my journey, and then you learn about the hover burst, which is pressing R and A simultaneously to essentially get a second jump. And I actually rarely needed to use this technique because for most of the situations I was in, the standard hover nozzle was the better option for me, but it is still situationally useful, especially on the speedrunning side of things. After making our way to the top, we take a very long and scenic dive down into the water, grab our 1-up along the edge, and then make our way to the final training area, which is also the most straightforward one. For now. You now have 2 different speeds for the turbo nozzle, one for pressing the R button and one for holding it all the way down. We make it to the end, the 1-up is in plain sight near the exit, and that means we get our first achievement for finding all 3 1-ups in the tutorial area. Wait a minute, what do you mean there's 4 of them? I got 1 in each of the 3 main training areas, and I don't see anything here in the lobby, so where on earth is the 4th one? I'm not even going to pretend that I have any hopes of ever figuring this one out on my own. There's a very obscure Easter egg left behind by the Eclipse team and I had to look this one up. And chances are if you're using my video as a Retro Achievements guide, you got stuck here too, because nobody expected the single most cryptic achievement to be right at the very beginning of the hack. Remember how I said that when you fall off in the tutorial area you return to the last checkpoint? Well, there's one specific unmarked area where this rule doesn't apply, and that's in the turbo nozzle section. You have to proceed to the second pair of spinning dice, and then get Mario to touch the back wall with the green diamonds. If you pulled it off correctly, then you won't return to the checkpoint, and you'll instead have a very, very long fall into a secret area. And from there you'll find a 1-up by the Skull Kid carving in the tree. From there I was able to clip my way into the hover burst area to escape, and then I got my 1-up achievement as well as the achievement for clearing the tutorial. But don't worry, 99% of the set is nothing like this. There's only one other cryptic 1-up in the entire set, and we'll cover that later. So now that we're done with the tutorial, we have a quick sequence of leaving Princess Peach's castle to fly to Delfino Airport. You can come back here later on, but for now there's nothing you can really do, so we begin the base game's intro cutscene, and now we have our first missable achievement in the set. One-man army requires you to defeat the first boss without using Flood, and all you have to do is press R and then you have water balloon bombs to throw instead. You'll have access to Flood like normal once you enter Delfino Plaza, so you should be doing this anyways in order to skip the tutorial video on how to use Flood. And then moving on to missable achievement number 2, I'm not even convinced that it's actually missable. You can access the Corona Mountain area at the very beginning of the game, but it's been replaced with the Fire Shrine, and you need to collect all 1-ups here in a single visit for the achievement. I understand the reasoning behind why it's marked as missable because after the flooded Delfino Plaza cutscene it changes back to the vanilla Corona Mountain, but then it returns back to the Fire Shrine again after you get all 240 shines. So unless I'm misunderstanding something, which is completely possible, then this one isn't truly missable, and even if it is, who cares because you can start up a new game and access this area in just a few minutes. To answer your next question though, the blue coins are shared in memory between the Fire Shrine and Corona Mountain, so no blue coins are missable and you can collect them in either one. But now onto the final missable achievement, taking the scenic route. And this one will actually cost you a bit of time if you end up missing it. It's not difficult to achieve, but it does require you to play in a specific way, because you have to trigger the flood without ever defeating the goopy piranha that blocks Bianco Hills. Which means that now it's time to talk about a new addition to Eclipse. You know in Sunshine you can see other levels in the background? Well, not only can you now directly travel to them in some circumstances, but Eclipse also adds original intermediary areas as well to give a more open world and interconnected feeling. Here's a general map for reference, and the easiest way to get into Bianco Hills without the main portal in the statue is to just enter the Fire Shrine and then immediately take a left. And one thing that I didn't know about these new areas until pretty late into the game is that each one of them has a hidden shine to collect as well. But once you actually know that you need to look for a shine, they're all pretty easy to figure out on your own. Talk to NPCs, extinguish flames, spray specific objects, find a specific hidden area, or ground pound a hidden switch. And it turns out you can ground pound underwater in this hack too. And for me, the very first shine that I ended up finding in one of these areas also ended up being the most significant, because a message from the statue here is actually a farewell message from the hack's co-director, Tempo. In addition to the achievement for getting all 9 shines scattered throughout these areas, there's also a bonus achievement for encountering the Easter egg by talking to this Pianta here. So then moving back to the main game progression, we're not really going to cover any of the vanilla content because all the shines and blue coins are in the same location, minus a single exception in Pianta Village as far as I remember. But to go over some of the quality of life improvements, many of the shines and blue coins are available in more episodes, collecting a shine doesn't always boot you out of the level, and for the ones that do, or for whenever you need to reset the level, you can choose to go right back to the mission select screen instead of getting booted all the way back to the plaza. So whether you're trying to get the Scenic Route achievement, trying to access the new content as quickly as possible, trying to get Luigi by defeating Bowser, or getting Piantissimo by clearing all the races, it should be even faster than you expect because you don't have to collect as many shines as you think. So the first new full level that we're going to cover is going to be Lighthouse Island because that's where the 4th Piantissimo race is, and you can access this area via boat in either Peanut Park or Rico Harbor. Episode 1, A Stormy Rampage, gives you exactly the scenery you would expect and requires you to clear the storm and restore light to the island. By going to the lighthouse in the center of the island and talking to this Pianta, he'll let you inside so that you can face off against a custom boss, the Corrupted Shine Sprite. Dodge his attacks, and after its ground pound, which will hurt you unless you jump, you can dive into it before ground pounding it, and after 3 ground pounds the shine is yours. Then for episode 2, the usefulness of being able to stay in a level after collecting a shine really became apparent here, because all in the same session I was able to find the shine bird, collect all 8 red coins, grab the 100 coin shine, bring the golf ball into the hole, and rock a nozzle to the top. But of course, because some events are tied to a specific episode, you will occasionally have to reset the level. Then you have the obstacle course stage hidden behind the backside of the beacon, which has a shine for a normal clear and a red coins clear, along with a 1-up achievement. I brought the rocket nozzle for the red coins, but I'm sure that the hover nozzle works just fine. Also, the circles in the center of these spinning platforms are a complete lie and you're not going to fall through them. These final few platforms may be a bit tricky at first, but after completing the Arcade 2 hack in my last video, it wasn't that bad. Then episode 6 is our Piantissimo race, and despite me being pretty sloppy on the run, it was a straightforward first attempt clear. And then for me, this was my 4th time beating him, so then we got the nice custom cutscene before unlocking him for good. So a quick overview on Piantissimo: he moves very fast and has a double jump, making him a great candidate in some of the floodless sections, but he uses the water bombs instead of flood, and because I'm not a speedrunner, his playstyle wasn't really for me. There were just too many moments where I wished that instead of the ability to move faster, I would have had the ability to spray consistently and use the hover nozzle. But overall, he's still really fun to play as, and I'm glad he was included. And if you're wondering what happens if you try to race Piantissimo while playing as him, you get a retro achievement cutely named Don't Compare Yourself to Others. But back to Lighthouse Island, episode 7 is the Shadow Mario chase. And not only is this one pretty easy because there aren't too many places for him to run, jump, or hide, but you can also see his health now as one of the quality of life upgrades. Then episode 8 is a blooper race where you take a lap around the island, but you can actually use the turbo nozzle instead if you'd like. Which means that all we have left for Lighthouse Island is the montage for the 1-ups and the blue coins. Also note that all of these new levels within the Delfino Plaza hub only have 20 blue coins instead of the standard 30. So the next new level that we're going to cover is Erto Rock, most easily accessible from Delfino Plaza. But before we talk about Erto Rock, let's take a quick moment to talk about game design as a whole and take a quick look at Super Mario 64. The very first mission of the game, King Bob-omb on the Summit, takes place at the top of the level, but you have all the time in the world to get there, so you can freely explore, get a feel for the level, better understand the mechanics, etc. Then episode 2, Foot Race with Koopa the Quick, does give you some sense of urgency the very first time you race him because you don't know how long it's going to take him to reach the top of the level. But by making this a second mission, you know what the level looks like, you have a feel for how to navigate effectively. And it would definitely be a little weird if the missions were flip-flopped and you race against Koopa the Quick before facing off against King Bob-omb. So then moving back to Super Mario Eclipse and Erto Rock, the very first mission that I had was a timed trading sequence. And while it's not a hard episode by any means and you have a very generous 5 minutes, making this the first episode doesn't really give me a chance to understand, or more importantly, truly appreciate the level design because I immediately have some sense of urgency involved. But thankfully, if you fast forward to today, recent patches have removed this timer altogether. So then why spend all this time talking about it in the first place? Well, one, it shows that the Eclipse team is doing a good job of listening to feedback as they continue to improve the game. Two, because it ties into a point I made in the Sunshine Arcade 2 video, where I said that that game's trading sequence mission was a good idea, but perhaps implemented into the wrong hack, and that I would enjoy it a lot more if it was a standalone mission in a full course, and now that the timer's been removed, I can definitively say that this is a much better implementation of the trading sequence idea. And then three, and most importantly, because back when this level did have a timer, there was also a speedrun achievement too for completing the entire sequence in under a minute. But now that the timer has been removed completely, in the spirit of this change they removed the speedrun achievement as well. So because I practiced to improve on and overcome this achievement just to have it removed from the set literally the very next day, I'm still showing it off. Episode 2 is then one big climb to the top, and prior to discovering that they removed the timer from Episode 1, I was originally going to suggest flip-flopping these two missions, because this gives you a really good chance to take in the scenery and get a feel for the level, making it a much better first impression. Then in the same level session, you can use the rocket nozzle to grab the shine hiding under here, as well as grab the 8 red coins, 100 coin shine, and shine bird, before resetting the level to do Secret of the Shed. And like usual, you're going to have a shine for the normal completion, one for the 8 red coin completion, and then an achievement for finding all the 1-ups, both of which are in plain sight here. Episode 6 is another timed mission, similar to Pianta's in Need from Pianta Village. The volcano has erupted, so you need to rescue and clean 10 Piantas trapped in the lava goop. The timer isn't too strict, but it's more than possible that you'll struggle trying to find the final 1 or 2 of them. Then episode 7 is of course the Shadow Mario chase, but this time the goop is a little bit different. It's an unused beta element, and it effectively serves as quicksand if you fall into it. For RetroAchievements, there's a small achievement for letting it swallow you. And then lastly for episode 8, you have playing tag at the peaks, but really it's more so hide and seek, and this mission is perfectly suited for Piantissimo. Similar to episode 6, the timer is fine, but you may get lost trying to find the final 1 or 2, and I actually had to do this one 3 times because I couldn't find the last one. Fun episode, and then looking back at the removal of the timer in episode 1, another reason why I now think that was a good idea is because you would have otherwise had 3 different timed missions in this course, which is perhaps a bit excessive. After obtaining the shine, all we have left are the 1-ups and the blue coins. Next we're off to Pianta Village because that's how we're going to access the next 3 new worlds. And 2 of those 3 new worlds would be accessed by taking this warp pipe to the Rugovosa Marsh area. We'll start with Warship Island, where Mario is immediately drafted into the Navy in order to destroy the mines with water rockets. And if you're anything like me, your gamer instinct is immediately making you wonder what happens if you touch one. And the answer is that Mario completely fucking disintegrates. And you also get an achievement. So now it's time to actually do the level. Back when this hack first came out, the rockets were a bit glitched and would effectively not work every other time that you collected it because it would burst immediately. This issue has long since been fixed, and it's much easier to complete now, but even back then it was still an easy mission because you had unlimited time and attempts. Episode 2 is Cannonball Delivery, which is also relatively easy. And all you gotta do is find each of the cannonballs scattered throughout the level and return them to the crate at the very beginning. Finding the cannonballs themselves isn't too much of a challenge, but it may initially feel awkward trying to figure out how to best line up your character to drop them into the crate. Also, the locations have been changed a bit in recent revisions, but they should still be in the same general area. Then moving on to episode 3, atop the warship is straightforward enough, and then I proceeded to grab the 8 red coins and 100 coin shine immediately after, before finding the hidden shine in the sand. Then the submarine out here brings us to the obstacle course section, which once again has 2 shines tied to it, and an achievement for finding all the 1-ups, which are all in plain sight. So with enough patience on our bounces and spin jumps, we grab the 8 red coins with plenty of time to spare. Then for episode 6, you'll return to the underwater research facility and talk to this Pianta before being introduced to a new enemy variant, the Mutant Stew. They share all the same attacks and weaknesses as their standard Stew counterparts, but now they're faster and more aggressive. Defeating them all will net you a shine. After that, episode 7 is another Shadow Mario chase, and then for episode 8, you go on a treasure hunt by using Yoshi to help you find a key hidden in a crate before unlocking the chest on top of one of the islands. Next up are the 1-ups, and 3 out of the 4 are pretty easy to find, and then the last one is hidden in this nail. Then it's time for one final treasure hunt in this level, collecting all 20 blue coins. Heading back the way we came through the marsh, we now make our way to Hotel Lacrima, which you'll very quickly realize is run by the Pianta Mafia. Similar to Serena Beach, you're going to start outside the hotel, but then there's an entire indoor portion to explore as well, and each section has a single 1-up. For episode 1, you'll make your way inside, and after appreciating all the references to other Mario games scattered throughout, you'll make your way to the kitchen and find the secret passage. You'll sneak your way past all the guards and make it to the arena before you're confronted by several Mafia members. You'll then go through a 3-round gauntlet facing off against various stew enemies. Then after finally defeating them all, you'll be considered an honorary member of the Mafia, and you'll be rewarded with your first shine. But you're not entirely done with the basement area just yet, because if you return in the very next episode, you can encounter a Cup Beta enemy from Sunshine, known as the Hino Curry 2, and defeating it will net you a bonus achievement. And then for the actual mission of episode 2, you simply have to break into this room to collect the shine, and you do so by going outside around the back and climbing up through the window. Then Hotel Lacrima has not one but 2 different secret areas, and there's 2 shines in each one. The first one is accessed through the vent, and despite there being 1-ups in this area, there's no achievement for collecting them all. And while the timer isn't too much of an issue as far as the red coins go, your water tank can be, so be mindful not to overuse it because you don't want to finish up the red coin shine just to find out that you can't hover your way up to the top. And then after wrapping these 2 shines up, our next secret area is going to be in the arcade with the booty scooting arcade machine. And this gigantic winding slide level was probably my favorite secret area in the entire game. Naturally, you're going to have protections in place to prevent you from jumping all the way to the bottom, but there are several small sections that you can jump over and skip. And this is also one of the best areas to use Piantissimo because if you fall off the track, you can use the double jump to get back up. Then if you fast forward to today, this area has been completely overhauled with a rainbow road aesthetic, and there's a few additional guardrails added as well. Which means now it's time for a potentially unpopular opinion, but prior to the overhaul there was a lot of conversation among users about this area being too difficult. But I actually thought it was relatively easy and perfectly fair when you consider the jank and vanilla Sunshine, combined with some race segments in official Mario games perhaps being a bit harder. But with all that being said, I still completely support the decision to add the guardrails in, and would much rather play on the new one than the old one. And now that I have the new slide as a reference, in hindsight there are some sections of the old slide that perhaps look a bit ugly and empty. And now the new guardrails make these areas look much more elegant and refined, and that's before factoring in the new colors too. But now back to the main area, there's another shine in the arcade for completing this basketball minigame. The goal is simple enough, score 5 baskets in a minute, but amusingly enough, this actually took me more attempts than both of the 2 slide shines combined. But then I was able to find an optimal position by making an imaginary line in between the diamonds on the carpet, and then doing a jump throw from there. Then episode 6 brings us back to the outside, and you just have to ground pound the watermelons to recreate the mini model shown below. Not too much else to say about it, pretty easy to do, just take your time. Then for episode 7, our Shadow Mario chase takes place in the basement area, so after collecting that and then the 100 coin shine afterwards, episode 8 is...
pizza time.
After you make your way into the kitchen, you get ordered to deliver 6 pizzas within the time limit. But the first time you play, you're not actually going to know who ordered a pizza until you bring it up to them and they either accept it or ignore you. And this section features the exact song that many of you were expecting, Funiculi Funicula. And for anyone who doesn't actually know the origin of the song, it was composed in 1880 by Luigi Denza, with lyrics written by Peppino Turco, and was written to celebrate the opening of the first funicular railway in Mount Vesuvius. And while the melody has made its way into a number of pieces of media over the years, most of us nowadays just associate it with the Spider-Man 2 pizza delivery segment. And now that I've shown the locations for all 6 customers and collected the shine, now let's talk about the retro achievement for speedrunning the route in under a second. Yes, you heard that correctly, 1 second. It used to be shorter than that too. But don't worry, the trick is actually really easy and really fun to pull off. The timer doesn't start until you get close enough to this Pianta for him to talk to you. So by jumping over him and staying out of his range, you can pre-deliver all the pizzas now that you know the locations. After that, you just talk to the Pianta to start the delivery timer, and then let the show begin. So after dethroning Spider-Man as the pizza delivery king, all that we have left are the blue coins. Even though most of you may have triggered the flood by now, there is still one final new area, the Pianta Pit. And to get there, make your way back to Pianta Village and then dive off into the abyss. And I have some mixed feelings on this area because from a lore perspective it's fantastic and there's some great dialogue scattered throughout. But I do wish that there were just a few more subtle landmarks because it is easy to get lost here. Unlike the other new levels which have 11 shines, there's only 7 here. You have your 100 coin shine, you have one from scaling the inside of the great tree, one from finding a Chuckster and speaking to him to get launched, one from finding and ground pounding a switch, one from finding the trampoline stew and defeating him, one from extinguishing all the campfires, and then the last one for eating all the Cheep Cheeps in the level. Which took me a really long time to figure out because I had no clue that Yoshi can swim now. So then after wrapping up all 7 shines, all that's left are the 1-ups and the blue coins. After that, we make our way to Corona Mountain, defeat Bowser, and unlock Luigi. And in hindsight, I wish I would have unlocked him sooner, because unlike Piantissimo, where his usefulness is a bit more situational, Luigi is much more universally useful. And while he's nowhere near as busted as he was in Super Mario 64 DS, his floatier jumps combined with access to Flood pretty much always makes him the superior choice. And this will become apparent pretty quickly because now that we've done everything in Delfino Plaza, it's now time to begin Act 2 with the Daisy Cruiser campaign, and the ship itself serves as a hub world to the many new levels. But these areas are much more straightforward, and most of them only have 5 shines and 10 blue coins each. And just like how Delfino Plaza itself had shines scattered throughout, there's some on the Daisy Cruiser as well. 6 shines and 10 blue coins. The first one will be from ground pounding a switch and then making your way to the shine that spawns within the time limit. Then we have one for bringing a durian to the bow of the ship, followed by a 100 coin shine. Shine number 4 is a pretty well hidden one, and you get to it through a secret passage in the cargo area before spraying this wall. Then for the final 2 shines we climb through this open window, and this will definitely be one of the longer obstacle course areas in the game for you. You make your way across a series of planes and trains that all move at different speeds. Both of the 1-ups for the achievement are in plain sight, but you have to get there pretty quickly or else you won't have anything to stand on. And while the initial clear did take me a few attempts, at the end of the day everything moves on a predetermined path, which makes the 8 red coin section much easier. Because unless you outright missed a red coin, you're not going to be pressed for time once the train makes it to the final red coin. Plus you have Flood this time around too. Which means all we have left for the cruiser are the blue coins and 1-ups. Then we make our way back to the cargo area, and then we head off to the Spettro Casino. There's only a single 1-up in this level, and then these brand new green boo enemies will create platforms for you to bounce on. After you make your way up and then ride the playing card up to the very top, you'll get your first shine. Then after that we make our way to the classic casino game of Jenga. Scale the giant structure for shine number 2. And even though there's a sign that recommends Piantissimo for this section, Luigi is just so busted that it's probably easier to use him. Then by the time you wrap up this shine, you should be pretty close to wrapping up the 100 coin shine too. Then for shines 4 and 5, we make our way to another classic casino game, chess. First you're going to spray all the goop to reveal the 8 red coins, and then for Secret of the Haunted Rook you're just going to stand up here and it'll slowly move back revealing a passage. And admittedly it actually took me a while to realize that this rook even moved, as indicated by me jumping past the giant hole with coins over it and then wandering around trying to figure out where to go. But then after we finally notice the giant hole that appeared in the ground, we make our way in and then quickly realize that this area isn't nearly as bad as it initially looks. Both of the extra lives for the achievement are right near the very beginning, so no pressure if you mess up. Then all you need to do after that is either outspeed the spinning area, or you can just cheese the entire section by using Piantissimo instead. Then since we already covered the single 1-up in this area, all that's left are the blue coins. We then make our way back onto the cruiser and into the control room, which is where most of the new levels are going to be accessed. And even though I visited them in a completely random order since I had most of the shines at this point anyways, I'm just going to cover them in the order that they're unlocked. Which means that first up, after getting 100 shines, you get access to the Vaporwave level, featuring a nice remix of Delfino Plaza. Episode 1, Nozzle Nonsense, requires you to rocket nozzle your way up to the top, but each of these platforms are going to grant you a different nozzle, so you have to find the correct one for each layer of platforms. Then after making your way to the very top and collecting shine number 1, shine number 2 will be completely visible, and you can cover most of the distance to get there with a spin jump or rocket dive. But be aware that not every platform on the way there is solid. You also have an entire second area to explore through this hole here. Your coin counter will end up resetting, but it's pretty easy to get the 100 coin shine in this area. Also, even though you can travel back and forth between these two areas at will, if you fall off the edge in the second half, you'll respawn from there. And then once you collect the shine sprite, you'll realize that the structure you just scaled was a giant shine sprite from above. Then for the last shine, what you're supposed to do is make your way across all of these paths to unlock the room and grab the shine sprite in there. Or you can save yourself a whole bunch of time instead by working backwards until you grab the key. So yeah, that may have been a bit of an oversight, but you still have to go through the whole area to grab all the 1-ups and the blue coins. So with that level done, next up is Lancia Fredda Peaks unlocked at 120 shines. And this area introduces a new mechanic with the tornadoes that will shoot the player up, but to maximize the boost you have to slide from the outside in and try to go underneath to build up the momentum. Simply landing on top won't send you nearly as far. And it definitely took me a while to fully understand the tornado mechanics, but especially with Luigi it wasn't too big of a deal till near the very end with the achievements. So first up are the shines, and if you spawn the shines for both the 8 red coins and the 100 yellow coins first, then you can just climb to the top of the mountain, and you'll have a straight shot from the one up here to the one on top of the castle, and then the coin related shines. Followed by the secret area, which is right by the start of the level and is pretty straightforward in design. Then on top of that, the 10 blue coins were all pretty easy to find too, so as far as the standard 100% completion for this level goes, you can clear it in a matter of minutes and then be on your way. But for RetroAchievements users, it's a completely different story, because now we have the 1-ups. For the main area, you'll likely find the first 3 just fine through casual play, and then you're going to wander around aimlessly trying to figure out where the 4th one is. I began desperately using the Y-cam to try to look behind walls for any leads, and then I found this random image of a cat. From here I held the L button to enter sidestep mode, and then proceeded to clip through the mountain, which was a whole lot easier than it looks. And surely enough, spraying this cat got me the 4th one-up to get the achievement, which means that all that's left are the one-ups in the secret area. It's a very short area, there's only 2 lives and the first one's in plain sight, but where's the second one? All the way over there. So remember how I said that me not fully understanding the tornado mechanics wasn't really an issue until the very end with the achievements? Well, this is what I was talking about. Because no matter what I did with Luigi, I couldn't find myself making it anywhere near this one-up in terms of height or distance. So I figured that meant I had to use Piantismo and try to use his second jump to spin flop into it. But what I didn't know the entire time was you could just use a hover burst from underneath to get more height. So because I didn't know that, I spent a good 25 minutes trying to tornado jump spin flop into this one-up with Piantismo, which isn't what you're supposed to do. But because I'm either too persistent for my own good or too patient for my own good, I was eventually able to get it the wrong way anyways. After making my life significantly harder than it needed to be, next up is Red Lily City, which requires 140 shines to enter. In terms of overall design, feel, and atmosphere, this was probably one of my favorite new levels, even if I did get a bit lost in it. Episode 1 introduces a new counterpart to Il Piantissimo, La Noticia. The race is incredibly easy though because you can just wall kick and double jump your way up to the top, which makes it a little bit disappointing that this is the only time you race her in the entire hack. But a win is a win, so we reset the level to play as Luigi, and then we combine the 8 red coin and 100 coin shine together. And I don't know if it was just because this area had more landmarks or was more condensed, but even though I got lost, it was just a really fun area to blindly explore in. And then the last 2 shines are tied to restoring power to the bubble generators. You'll have to navigate your way through an underground maze area, and you can either struggle to find your way through like normal, or you can exploit some good old-fashioned sunshine jank to clip through. Then after ground pounding the switch, the generators will power back on, and it'll produce bubbles that you can ride up to grab the first shine, and then we'll open the door to the secret area. So unless you feel like going through the underground maze area twice, grab the one in the air first and then make your way to the secret area, which isn't actually an obstacle course this time, and instead you just have to find and ground pound every single block in the area. Which then just leaves the 1-ups and the blue coins, which once again highlighted just how much fun it was to explore the city. And then with only 2 levels left in the control room area, our next stop is Peach Beach, which requires 160 shines. And as you probably imagined, with this being a Mario Kart stage, nearly everything in this level is going to be time trial related. For mission 1, you have to clear up the racetrack by breaking all the boxes within the time limit, and despite me not being very efficient at this and cutting it pretty close, it was still a first attempt clear. Then for episode 2, you race around the track and you have a time limit of 40 seconds. That part's pretty easy, but then you have an extra achievement for getting it under 30, and this one actually took me a while. I have no clue if there's any difference in speed between Mario and Luigi, but the 2 big tricks that help me get the achievement are to 1, stay in this center water area when possible, and 2, to jump and use the Y-cam to cut the corners slightly, though not too much or else it won't register you as completing the lap. Then for episode 3, you once again have a time trial of sorts. You're going to race your way through the not so short shortcut to a shine in the air before the platforms disappear. and given how many times I clearly messed up trying to get there, you can say that this timer isn't really much of a challenge. Then for episode 4, you're going to find Yoshi, find a fruit in a box, and then make your way to a Mario Kart level within a Mario Kart level. And then instead of the usual 8 red coins, this time you have 10 green coins. And the big difference is that for the green coins, you can't just collect them in whatever order you want. You have to collect one before the next one will spawn. And doing things this way is pretty fitting for a battle stage in a Mario Kart game. Then after that we obtain the one shine that's not tied to a time trial, the 100 coin shine, and then grab our 1-ups and blue coins. Then we're off to the final new level in the control room area, which requires 180 shines, Yoshi Village, which immediately plunges you into chaos. Because in episode 1, the entire village is on fire and you face off against a custom boss. PD Piranha is back, but this time he spews lava instead. While he is a step up in difficulty, the fundamentals are still the same. Knock him down, fill him up, ground pound, and repeat. There's also several items and achievements that can only be obtained in this episode. You'll encounter this poor Yoshi burning alive in the house, and if you take advantage of the invincibility frames to talk to him, you'll get the "This is Fine" achievement. And then after that, some of the blue coins are only available in this episode, so we'll just do the montage now. And then you have what for many will be the single hardest 1-up achievement, because this time you have 12 to collect in a single session. If you're familiar with the main Super Mario Sunshine Retro Achievement set, you'll remember that spraying these enemies enough will spawn a 1-up, one that will run away from you. Which means that for each one of these enemies, you not only have to make sure that you don't spray it so fast that it hits the ground before you get the 1-up, but you also have to spawn it in a safe location so that you can quickly grab it before it runs off into an area that you can't reach and disappears. Which is of course much easier said than done when the entire village is on fire and you can't just extinguish these flames with flood. So if you make a single mistake, you gotta start all over. Then after that, the rest of this level is much more straightforward. In a single session, we're able to obtain Yoshi, eat every single climber enemy, collect all 8 red coins, and obtain the 100 coin shine. Then for the final shine, we take a trip down memory lane, as the secret area brings us some familiar levels across Super Mario Bros. 1 through 3 and Super Mario World. Also, it turns out that the bottomless pits in this area aren't so bottomless after all, because I fell down one by mistake and it ended up being a shortcut instead. After wrapping up this level, we've completed everything in the control room area, but I noticed I was still missing a few shines. And it turns out that I completely missed an area on the pool deck of the cruiser, Mario's Dream. And while this is one of the prettiest levels in the entire hack, unfortunately episode 1 of Mario's Dream does the same thing that I didn't like about episode 1 of Erto Rock, which is immediately giving you a timed mission before you can get a feel for the level. However, the reason why it's not as bad in this level as opposed to Erto Rock earlier is that for this mission you only have to pop 20 out of 30 balloons, and you can see most of them from any given point in the level. And of course you can always line up several balloons for a single shot with a rocket, and with 8 minutes you're not really pressed for time here. I still wish that this could have been the final mission instead of the first one though. Then for our next shine we have a new take on the spinning block, which is just going to be a small panel of it. But fundamentally it's still the exact same thing as a spinning block, so between Luigi and the hover nozzle you should have no problem with this at this point in the game. And then the next 2 shines feature the same new obstacle, the rainbow rings. Similar to Snowman's Land and Super Mario 64, they just exist to push in a single direction, though they have a much larger radius. So for this first shine you're going to have to use the studs from the spinning blocks to get enough height to jump over the rings. Then for the second shine, after you find the green warp pipe, you're going to be riding the rainbow ring upward instead to collect 8 red coins along the way. Though in many cases it's actually a whole lot easier to just work your way from the top down. And for this level there's so many yellow coins scattered about that between the 3 shines you should easily collect it somewhere along the way. Which then leaves us with 4 not so hidden 1-ups to collect, and then our final 10 blue coins. And with that, we then get the satisfaction of redeeming all 420 blue coins at once. And we now only have a single shine left to collect, a brand new Bowser fight in a destroyed Delfino Plaza. Just note that after completing this battle, you can't go back to challenge him again, so make sure to back up your save if you want to. And despite my rough start on the battle, I still beat it on my first attempt. For the first phase, you're going to be using the various explosives to break open the iron crates and then shoot the water rockets at Bowser. Then once he lowers himself, you'll spray him with blood to stun him and then throw the bombs into his flying car, similar to Super Mario World. Then after doing this a second time, you'll finally defeat him. Make your way to the priest and talk to him, and then Corona Mountain will erupt, granting you the 240th shine before transitioning into the ending sequence of Vanilla Sunshine. And then the next time you boot up the game, you'll unlock a bunch of various feature toggles, but the game isn't over just yet. There's actually a post-game to the post-game, accessed by going to Delfino Airport and then flying back to Princess Peach's castle. That being said, because these power stars don't contribute to your shine totals or anything, this entire third act is completely optional unless you're playing with RetroAchievements. Speaking of, most of the Power Star related achievements require you to collect them all in a single session. For the hub itself, you'll have 3 achievements. One for grabbing a single star beyond the mirror, just like in Super Mario 64 DS, one for grabbing the 1-ups in the basement, and one for bringing Luigi to the courtyard. Then for the levels themselves, most of these are just proof of concepts, ports, and beta levels with 1 to 2 stars and a few extra lives scattered throughout. And because these aren't 100% completed levels, they're a bit more of a mixed bag. Some of them are really fun, while others can be a bit rough. But because nothing here is pretending to be a completed level and the intentions of this area are portrayed very clearly, I'm not going to be judging anything too harshly, because I'd rather it exist and be playable than not playable at all. The other thing is that while I'm normally pretty thorough with showcasing the achievement hunting side of things, I'm not actually going to showcase every single level for this part of the hack, because that was the plan originally, but it became apparent pretty quickly that it was going to make this part of the video pretty boring. And especially with some of these beta levels, they're better off experienced either on your own or from watching someone else's live stream or let's play. So the plan is to just focus on the highlights and the harder achievements, while using the remaining levels as B-roll footage. So first up in the Jolly Roger Bay Room, we have Sunshine Beach Galaxy from Super Mario Galaxy 2, which is about as fitting of a port as you can get for a Super Mario Sunshine mod. RetroAchievements doesn't require you to collect the 100 coin star, so you just have the one for finding 8 silver stars, one en route when collecting the silver stars, one for a timed platforming sequence which is pretty easy, and one for a timed battle with smoldering stews. But then you have 9 extra lives to collect, but none of them are too hard to obtain and you'll run into most of them through standard exploration. The ones that you'll likely struggle on the most are going to be from the post by the fruit, from the coin collecting minigame in the green pipe, and from the smoldering stew battle by realizing that this pad can actually teleport you. I managed to pop the achievement for both the power stars and the 1-ups at the same time, so now we're going to move on to the level with the second most amount of 1-ups, which is also my least favorite bonus level. And I know I said that given the nature of this area I wasn't going to be too harsh on any of the levels, but I can't just say nothing about Lancia Fredda Peaks version 1. It's basically most of the things that you didn't like about the final version of this level, but now in slow motion because holy shit that frame rate is atrocious. Now this isn't the only level in this part of the game that had an issue with lag, but this was the one level in this section where it just really didn't feel rewarding to explore in. There's only 3 power stars, but one of them is from collecting 8 red coins, and then you have 7 1-ups to find, so I was pretty miserable by the end of this one. But at least it made me appreciate the final version of this level a whole lot more. And now that I'm done complaining, let's talk about one of the sleeper hits, a level I not only didn't expect at all, but didn't expect to enjoy so much. And that would be the port of Windfall Island from Wind Waker. There's only a single power star and then 4 extra lives, but it's all those little details and design choices that they made that add up to make this experience a memorable one. The inclusion of Yoshi for completing the level, being able to enter Beetle's ship to grab a 1-up in the fruit, the fact that they made the fruit the pear, them enlarging the pathways in the jail cell maze so that it's part of the level that you can explore, making you collect 8 red rupees instead of 8 red coins, and just the overall ability to explore the level without the same limitations that you would have in Wind Waker. So while there are other crossover levels from games such as Banjo-Kazooie and Crash Bandicoot, the Wind Waker one stood out the most. And the last crossover level that I'm going to cover is from Super Monkey Ball, which, confession time, I've never actually played before. One day I'll fix that, but for today, it became apparent very quickly that with my lack of prior experience, getting II into the goal was going to be quite the challenge. Until I realized that I can just skip the entire course by diving into them at the very beginning. That's all we're going to cover for the level ports, and now let's highlight some of the beta restoration content. Many of these are pretty similar or even substantially similar to their base game counterparts, but others are a fascinating glimpse into how much different these levels once were. Bianco Hills actually has 3 different variants in this part of the game, but the big one that stands out is the Space World build. The windmill is still present, but it's not its own isolated section anymore, because the village is much larger and takes up the entire level now. Several other noteworthy differences include a swimming pool that you can refill your water in, and a series of docks near the beginning of the level. But there's no extra lives here, and the only power star that you can get is from defeating the Hino Curry. And the other big standout is also from Space World, the beta version of Delfino Plaza, Dalpic Town. You can see that everything was once in a much more condensed semicircle, but with less going on in the center of the level. You can also see the Space World Bianco Hills connected in plain sight, along with the Delfino airstrip. So after having your fun swimming around in the center and kicking the soccer ball, you'll collect the 8 red coins and grab the 1 power star. Then moving on from beta restoration, we lastly have original levels for this hack that were ultimately scrapped, and I'll focus on 4 of them. The first one will be the Epic Wade level. You can see the Daisy Cruiser in the background, and this level actually has enough going on for it that it's almost completed. Give it a visual overhaul, add an entrance to a secret area, and then throw in some additional 1-ups, enemies, yellow coins, and blue coins, and it would fit in just fine in a different hack. Also, it took me a while to find the final red coin because I didn't think to check the sand blocks. The second noteworthy level is Isle Medusa. There's only a single shine this time for collecting 8 red coins, but once again this feels like a mostly completed level that just needs a slight texture overhaul. It has enough going on where adding the remaining stars and collectibles wouldn't be too difficult in the future, and everything I enjoyed about navigating Red Lily City applies here as well. I understand not wanting too many different city levels in a single hack, but I really do hope to see a finalized version of this level somewhere in the future because it just has so much potential going for it. The third standout level is where Bowser in the Sky would be, and it's a beautiful water park level with more lawsuit potential than Action Park in New Jersey. There's only a single power star and it's obtained by collecting the 8 red coins across the various attractions, the hardest section of which is designed for you to use Yoshi to create platforms over the water. If you haven't played this hack or you haven't made it to this part of the game yet, you may be wondering why this amazing looking level was scrapped. And the answer is because all of this footage is being sped up. A lot. Unfortunately, the GameCube hardware is just too limited to handle a level like this. And while yes, that major setback does make the final level in this area a bit anticlimactic, unlike Lancia Fredda Peaks version 1, this still felt like an actual reward to enjoy, and despite the lag fest, I still kind of had fun. But for most Retro Achievements users, this likely wasn't the final challenge for you anyways, because the hardest level in Peach's Castle is none other than False Block Nexus. The premise is straightforward enough. You can only stand on blocks that are facing the same direction as your starting block. If you land on a block facing a different direction, you get booted out of the level. The vertical hitboxes are perhaps a bit higher than they should be, but rarely was this ever an issue. And the first star isn't terrible because you have Luigi in the hover nozzle, the 1-up will restore your water tank, and as long as you take your time and double check before you jump, you can slowly but surely make it to the very top and grab the star. But the second star, which is a timed 8 red coin star, is no joke, and it was considered so difficult that completing this level was raised from 5 points all the way to 25 points on Retro Achievements. You only have 90 seconds and the coins are all pretty scattered, so you'll spend multiple attempts just trying to figure out where the coins even are from various reference points. Then you're going to spend multiple attempts trying to figure out a route before finally grinding multiple attempts until you complete it without messing up. Because with only 90 seconds, you can't afford to hesitate and second guess one of your jumps. So this was ultimately the route that I came up with. After finally completing it in time, I grabbed the 1-up to refill Flood and then very slowly made my way up, because at this point I had an entire folder of failed attempts and I really didn't want to do it again. Which means that after 240 shines, 420 blue coins, 38 power stars, 102 extra lives, and 123 achievements, our Super Mario Eclipse journey is finally complete, and what a journey it was. I would go as far as to call this one of my top 5 favorite hacks of all time, so if I feel like playing Sunshine casually again in the future, not only would I want to play with the Eclipse mod, but I'd even be willing to master the Retro Achievements set again too. But for now, while there are additional Sunshine subsets that I could tackle, after 4 videos I think it's time for a break from the game, because I have other completed sets that I still need to make videos on, as well as games that I want to master in the future, some of which will be live streamed. So while a future return to this game is definitely a possibility, for now it's time to say our farewells to Isle Delfino and take a trip over to DK Isles for our next video. Until next time, I hope you all have a wonderful day.